So the sound you just heard was a breakdown in a song that I have coming out next Friday. I posted a little clip of it on Twitter, and I figured it would be a nice idea to kind of show you how I made that sound. So let me explain to you the situation I was in. I was writing this song. We're looking at an earlier version of the project file right now. I was writing a song, and I had this section. It was like pretty like rhythmic and stuff, and then here I kind of in this next section I just kind of like start to slow things down a bit. And then here I had some blank space where I wanted to do some kind of breakdown, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do because I usually just write like this bit first and this bit first, and then I just do whatever I feel needs to be done to connect those bits in between. So I already had this this upcoming section where I had this nice pad among some other things. And yeah, I wanted to go from something very rhythmic to something more calm, more harmonic. So I came up with this sort of Neuro Pad sound, for lack of a better term, and that's really what I want to zoom in on. So you can see here, there's two channels named Neuro Pad, and this one is basically this one but resampled and time stretched. So the way I started is I took the pad that I had, and you can hear it right here. There's some automations going on that kind of freak out some of the operators, make them go kind of crazy. Yeah, this one. But other than that, it's pretty much still the same pad. There's like a bunch of post-processing, but that's just, you know, standard pad stuff, I guess. And yeah, so the first thing I did was I used like a bandpass filter. You can see the automation in the bottom two lanes here. And yeah, the way this is sort of similar to making a neuro bass, I kind of want to compare this to that one. I think Frequent did a tutorial on how he makes neuro bass, and he basically like starts out with a sine wave, and then he soft clips it, and then he filters it, and then he soft clips it again, and then he filters it again, and he soft clips it, and so on and so forth. And all the filters are moving, so that creates this really interesting, crazy sort of texture. And this is kind of really the first step to that, but with a pad, you know. So so I have this filter moving around, making the sound all wacky in all sorts of ways. There were some problems there where, you know, if the filter is like in a really high frequency, it doesn't sound nearly as loud because there simply isn't as much energy up there in the frequency spectrum with this sound. So I just compress it stupidly hard, actually, going over 15 dB of gain reduction there. And yeah, if this was a neuro bass at this point, you would want to run it into some kind of soft clipper, distortion, whatever, to kind of create new harmonics from the sound that you have as the input. But you might have tried before to put distortion on a seventh chord, and in general, it sounds kind of horrible. It really doesn't sound nice. So I can't really do that. And there's like kind of complicated reasons for that, like when you have a polyphonic sound, so with multiple notes at the same time, and you distort those together, generally the rule is it's not going to sound good unless the intervals between the notes are simply octaves and fifths. But that's not the case here. This is, I think it's like a bunch of major or minor seven chords or whatever. So we have all these thirds going on, and thirds just don't sound good when you distort them. But there is an analogous process that we can do instead of distortion. So when you think about what happens with distortion is, effectively, when you distort a signal, you kind of add harmonics onto the sound. At least that's how it goes for monophonic sounds, right? If you take a sine wave and you soft clip it, it kind of becomes like a sort of pseudo square wave, right? And you've just added a whole bunch of harmonics. Now, you might have already spotted the name of this next plugin. It's called Harmonic Adder, and this is from a bundle called the Anarchy Effects bundle. I put a link in the description. I've talked about this bundle before in the Shepherd Stones video. And there's just a bunch of crazy, wacky plugins in here that do crazy shit, basically. And this is one of them. And I don't know exactly how this works internally, but what I think it does is it kind of listens to the input signal and then tries to hear what notes are in the input signal, and then it like synthesizes additional harmonics. So you can see here you get all these controls. You can move this around to change where the harmonics are, what shape they have. You also even have like an envelope follower sort of thing. And I basically use that to generate additional harmonics. So this, when paired with the bandpass filter that's moving all around super crazy, kind of gets you a step closer to doing what you would do in a neuro bass, but for a polyphonic sound instead of a bass. And you can hear like that sounds kind of like weird and metallic-y, but it does sound harmonic. It doesn't sound like I've just distorted a chord, which is really cool, I think. That's one thing I love about this plugin. If I turn it off, it's just a pad with a bandpass, right? But if I turn it back on, you get some really cool stuff. So that's basically the core of it. I go a bit further into it. I, again, compress it really hard because there's just some dips in volume that aren't super nice, I thought. Again, with like 15 dB of gain reduction, super crazy. And then I added a phaser, and what I did for this phaser actually is I recorded the automation just by like clicking and moving it around with my mouse. I just kind of did some random stuff, and it just adds a bit more flavor to the sound, I suppose. Yeah, then there's more compression and just a reverb to kind of diffuse things out, because it is a pad sound and I did want it to have that sort of diffused character. Sounds really cool, I think. And what I did at that point is I resample this sound, and that's when we get into here. So this is what I started with. Let me turn off all these plugins. I started with this sample and I time stretch it because I had done like, what is this, like 8 bars or 16 bars or whatever of my chords, but I had to fill twice that space. So that's exactly what I did. I time stretched it and I used the texture algorithm, which is basically sort of a granular algorithm of time stretching in Ableton. And you can see that I've modulated some of the parameters over the course of the clip. So the most important one here is this grain size one, because if this is at very small values, like it is here in the beginning, it kind of creates this almost comb filtery sound where it starts to introduce its own pitch into the sound. That's kind of what you can hear as well. It's like, it's not super obvious there, but I do more stuff later to bring that texture out a bit. And then I'm also messing around with the flux, which kind of introduces more or less randomness into the sound. And yeah, then I just do these plugins. There's like one bit where actually something quite crazy happened. I can go back into the original sound, and this was just one of those things, one of those happy accidents that turned out super cool. So if you listen to this bit in the original sound, then to me that sounds like a voice going like "ah, ah," you know. It's forgive me for my terrible pitch when singing, but that's what it sounds like. So when you time stretch it, that happens kind of over here somewhere. It's like in the last chord. So yeah, it's right there. And what I did is I just added a little delay on that because I thought that was a really cool sound. So I just automated in this delay where that happens. Because I wanted to kind of accentuate that and make it seem like, I just wanted it to stand out more, basically. Yeah, just a utility doing some volume automation, standard stuff, nothing too interesting going on there. Same with the EQ, there was like a bit here at the end where I wanted to kind of bring the pad back in, so I wanted to make some space for that. we'll go a little bit more into the mixing later. And then I have one more instance of harmonic adder. You can see I've gone kind of crazy on this. And this is where I really start to bring out that sort of scratchy texture. And you can see that the wet knob is automated there. It's only active in the beginning. It just adds a whole lot of scratchiness to the sound. And then finally, I use Serum Effects, and it just has this flanger that's the frequency is being modulated as well as the dry wet to kind of emphasize that a little bit more. So at this point, that's pretty much how I made the sound. So I want to go a bit more into how I mixed it and some other stuff. So let me jump to a more recent version of the project file. So here we can see a bit later a version of the project file where I've bounced everything out. This isn't the final version, but it's pretty close. And you can see that I did some very important things here, I would say. So the first thing is I had a compressor on it and I just automated the makeup gain. And this is because I wanted to emphasize certain moments in the sound. So if we listen to this first bit here, for example, you can really see like how the sound sort of swells up into this big, sharp thing over here that I really wanted to emphasize, and I wanted it to stand out more. So, like if we just remove the automation there, it doesn't have as much impact. So I use the volume automation there to really add way more emphasis to some of the texture that was already in the sound. And in a similar way, I actually use the reverb send here because I wanted that sort of high frequency hit to ring out for a very long time. Or a relatively long time, I suppose. And then also at certain bits, I used EQ boosts to really accentuate that sort of vocal thing that we had earlier. So you can see here on the EQ, band number 5 kind of pushing up when that vocal sort of thing happens. And then there's this sparkly high-end thing that I kind of boost with band 6. And other than that, there's just a static EQ that's pushing down some of the sides. I think this was because I'm layering this with the pad that I end up using in the next section. But I make it like super quiet to kind of have it in the background. I wanted to make a bit more space for that, I think. I don't quite remember why I did this, but just standard mixing stuff, bit of side EQing. And then there's TDR Nova, and with that I basically just compressed the high end because the sound is kind of wild and hard to tame at times. So the high end was a bit too dynamic. Like there were just certain things that were peaking out way louder than I would have liked. So I just used TDR Nova to kind of squash that down for me. I could have done this with automation, but this was just this is an easy sort of step that you can take to do it like for you automatically, I guess. Just less work. Whoops. So you can see that pushing down quite hard on some of those peaks. Well, quite hard. It's only like what, 3 dB. Well, you get the idea. So yeah, so that's pretty much how I made this sort of Neuro Pad sound. This was This was really one of those crazy things I just kind of decided I would do at like 3 in the morning when I was working on this track. And at the time that I made it, I was like, man, I really don't know if this is going to sound good when I wake up tomorrow, but I did, and I'm very glad about that. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to make a video to kind of show how I did this, and maybe you can be inspired by it and do something similar. I would love to hear if you do. You can drop a sample in my Discord server, or you can just post a comment or whatever. I also wanted to talk real quick about, you may have noticed that I've kind of not been posting videos for I don't know, 2 months. How long has it been? Hold up. Yeah, so I checked and it's been about 2 months, and I haven't really posted anything. So I kind of wanted to talk about why that happened, and I guess it's been just kind of a couple things that have been going on. Like university started again in September, so I had to kind of keep up with studying, and that's going pretty well right now. So I'm not too worried about that. But of course, that is taking up a lot of time that I could have been spending making videos. And also, I've kind of run into this thing where with my videos, I don't really know what I want to do. Well, actually, I do know what I want to do. I want to like make videos showing off things that either I don't think anyone has shown before, or that people are showing in the wrong way, or like I want to kind of present you with a new perspective. Like I don't want to be some guy telling you how an EQ and a compressor works, because there's already hundreds of, if not thousands of videos out there doing exactly that. I want to kind of, I want to, if I make a video, I really want it to be something that's worthwhile. And I think this was a good thing that's worthwhile, because this is a sound this sound is something that I've never really made before, something like this. And I haven't really heard other sounds like it. Maybe on some false noise stuff. He's pretty wacky with sound design, pretty crazy. But yeah, it's something that I thought I don't see a lot of stuff about this, so I just wanted to share it with you. And I think that's kind of the attitude that I'm going to keep in the future as well. That I'm only going to make a video if I feel like I really have something to tell you, something to contribute, or whatever. So yeah, if that sounds good to you, then hit the subscribe button, and then whenever I make, I don't know, a neuro symbol or whatever, you'll get a video of it. Yeah, subscribe, hit the like, join my Discord server, and check out my song when it's out. I'll put a link in the description. Yeah, thanks very much for watching. Bye bye.